Okay, this video is going over the presentation that I did on October 11th, which is a Tuesday. It is our first day introducing the next project, which I am calling Creature Feature. This project is going to be a sculpture project. So we are working with paper mache. We are making the head of a creature or monster, okay? In this presentation, we will explore what our idea of a monster or creature is. We will gather inspiration for our creatures from art and other cultural material. We will watch a short video of artist Scott Flanders that explains how he comes up with ideas for his characters. And we will create a list of inspirations and a sketch for your own creature. If you hear my cat, he is chewing a cardboard box for some reason. And if you hear the laundry, I am sorry. I'm recording at my apartment in my free time because I want you to be able to hear what I've said, okay? To the right over here is an old image of a griffin. A griffin is a mix of an eagle and a lion, but the artist also added some hooves. So different kind of creature already we're thinking about. So, as I'm talking, you can write down things that inspire you. At the end of this, that's what we need. We need a list of things that are inspiring our creature, and we need to create a sketch. But first, we're going to even start with what comes to mind when I say creature or monster in class. So I want you to think about that. But in class, some people called out funny things like, my mom's a monster, or classmates in the room. But we're really thinking about things like what people called out today: aliens, unicorns, minotaurs, ghosts, vampires, zombies. There were so many things that people called out throughout the day. And we're just talking about what comes to mind. Some people even said colors like black or sharp teeth or creepy smiles. So thinking about what comes to mind when we say creature or monster. The word monster is really associated with things that are imaginary. They have a bad rep, they're often the villain, things like that. Sorry, I just popped my knuckle. So now I'm going to show you some artwork that in history, kind of famous artworks with monsters in them, just to get you thinking, getting inspired. Up here is the title of the work. So the big letters up to the left are the title, then the name of the artist, the date, and here I have a link for the story of this creature over here, Kohara Kohiji. So the artist Hokusai, some of you maybe recognize this artwork. This is called The Great Wave. A lot of people recognize it. It just got popular. It's a popular image. It's like the Mona Lisa or Starry Night, where this is a Japanese artist from a long time ago, but this piece is so famous of his. And he also made this over to the right. So this is a ghost. He depicting a ghost story. You see his flesh is rotting. You see his bones. His hair is stringy and gross. You can see his teeth. The story of this ghost is that when he was alive, he was an actor. He was known for being kind of this ugly looking man, and he could only get the roles of the creepy ghost characters in the plays in the theaters. So he married a woman that kind of was disgraced by society. People kind of threw her out. She had a bad rep as well. But she did not love her husband, this man, Kohara. So she took a lover, and her lover killed Kohara. And Kohara spent the rest of his ghost life trying to get revenge. And that's his little ghost story. So there's a lot of ghost stories you could cite for this project. I also want to show you these two works by Francisco Goya. Some people might recognize this leftmost picture. It's of Saturn devouring his son. But over to the right is an artwork called The Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters. Francisco Goya was a Spanish painter. He got most famous for doing these beautiful portraits of rich families and royalty. That's how he got his name. And then later on in life, he started to lose it. He became paranoid of people. He isolated himself from everyone. They think he got lead poisoning, Francisco Goya. Lead poisoning. So lead was found in paint, in white paint, and in cosmetics at the time. So back then, if you chose to do your makeup, you had a good chance of dying because a lot of the makeup had lead in it. And it really just messes with your brain when you get lead poisoning. He couldn't sleep for a while, so that's what inspired this piece to the right. He struggled with sleeping, and when he slept, he had nightmares. So notice these birds are regular owls, but then as we go up into the corner, the owls turn into these more bat-like, kind of creepy, eerie shapes, especially this big one right up here. One of my favorite pieces is Night, Death, and the Devil by Albrecht Dürer. He is a Northern European artist, and you see this was over 500 years ago. This he carved into blocks to get these drawings. So this isn't pencil, he carved to get this. You notice the cross-hatching in the back. This whole piece is mostly cross-hatching and stippling, but I asked the class, which one do you think is death and which one do you think is devil? This is the whole image over here, but I zoomed into the two figures over here. So think in your head right now, which one do you think is the death? Which one do you think is the devil? In class, a lot of people got it right. This figure to the left over here is death. You see his flesh is rotting. He has these poisonous snakes around him. And the devil over here. The devil back then and still today was often associated with goats. So this goat-looking figure with its horns and fur and snout, the devil is often connected with goats. One of the reasons I think that is because goats, their eyes are actually really, really freaky if you look up to them. And their horns and all of that, the hooves, it's all connected to what people think the devil might look like. So I love this artwork. This is the work of a contemporary artist. She did her own version of Medusa. So this isn't like the typical Medusa that you would see. Look at her now, pinpoint the things that maybe aren't what you usually see from Medusa. This Medusa has 2 unicorn horns and multiple eyes, and you see her as she is dying. Her snakes are escaping from her hair, probably trying to survive. This is all made with clay. So Roxanne Jackson is a ceramicist. She works in Brooklyn and upstate New York. So she's centered really nearby to us. And she does these great monster sculptural artworks. It's not easy to do this kind of stuff. But Medusa was a creature very much misunderstood, cursed by the gods for her beauty. She was a sexual assault victim and just cursed to look ugly by the gods. And she eventually passed away. So this is a version of Medusa. The reason why I'm calling this project Creature Feature in the first place is because back in the 1950s and 70s, there was a genre of horror movies where monsters were the main villain. They were the prominent role of the movie. These creature feature movies are the reason why, like werewolves, Frankenstein, zombies and vampires and Godzilla, why these monsters are so popular today. It's because of these movies pushing these interesting monsters, these kind of iconic monsters in our lives. But it wasn't always like that. We weren't always so obsessed with vampires and werewolves and all of that. We do get creature feature movies today, but it was really from the 1950s to 70s where it was the most popular, very prominent. Adventure Time, you get inspiration from Adventure Time. Look up here, I got the opening theme for a link. You can go to the presentation, it's on Schoology. There's a link to the opening theme. There's a link to different Adventure Time species if you want to check that out. But almost every episode, there's a new creature or monster or character coming out. The character designers of Adventure Time really are very good at being creative and pushing their ideas and making these unique characters. Look at Monsters Inc. or Monsters University for inspiration. Notice all the eyeball variation, the skin variation. There's fur, there's scales, different number of arms, teeth. They really switched up the variety on some of these basic elements like color. If you're still stuck, you can go to this slide and there's links to different things. Pokemon is a good kind of inspiration as well. WikiList is very good. I'll click on it now. This is very good if you're like, I want to do something that's kind of like rodent-like, but I don't know where to go with that. And even in this section, there's different things that could get you thinking about, like in mythology and things like that. So if there's different, like, oh, I want to do a kind of dog, but where do I go with that? Oh, there's all these different things that I could reference and get inspired by. It's a very good resource. This is good if this is a Harry Potter art exhibition. This is very interesting, and just different things. You can check them out if you're stuck. So what is next? We will be making a list of inspirations. I just talked about a bunch of things that could get you inspired, to get you thinking and all of that. But we will make a list of inspirations eventually. But before we do that, I do want to play a video of the artist Scott Flanders talking through his ideas and inspirations. So in the video, he goes over how he came up with the idea for the Harvestmen. So he talks about all of his inspirations for these Harvestmen. These are some characters he has and how he creates them. Where does he start and how does he get ideas? Sometimes the hardest part for an artist is ideas and trusting your ideas and exploring them. So I'm going to play this video for a little bit and just pay attention to what he says. I'll explain a few things that are a little unclear. Some of the words he uses are a little big words.
The ideation phase. From my perspective, this is an extremely important part of the concept process that all too often gets rushed through. But I think it's important and useful to see how to lay the groundwork for a successful idea. If you'd like to follow along, check out the complete course at proko.com/monsterlab. Have fun and go make some monsters. Typically when I'm starting off, I like to set a clear, a goal for myself, a clear aim or a target. And for me, that begins with my initial prompt, usually a word or a phrase. In this case, it's Harvestman. This is this character trope or character archetype that Alec and I generated specifically for Monstober.
Okay, I'm stopping there because he says he starts with an idea, kind of like a concept he wants to explore, the Harvestmen. I also started with some idea. I'll talk about that later. But for my creature, I really wanted to create something that was like a protector of the forest. So a nature kind of creature. It's really helpful to start with that kind of just idea. Like I want to create a werewolf type creature, or I want to create a ghost. Start with that one word and then explore for ideas.
Alec's my sculpting partner for the Monstober events. He's helping me film this right now, actually. He's a really talented artist. You should check him out. Okay, back to the Harvestmen. They're basically little pumpkin-headed monster mutants. They're really fun because it's just a series of organic shapes, so we can really play and freestyle with human anatomy and break rules and push forms and just really do whatever we want. It's right at the top, Monstober. It's like setting your intentions. It's like some hippie shit, but it works. It helps me clarify what I'm up to. Monster Lab, Harvestman. Now I know what I'm up to. I think it's important to spend some time identifying previously established precedents for.
So he says, okay, he's about to finish this. I paused it a little early, but he says established precedents. What he means is the things that came before him, what of those could be inspiring what he's doing right now. So established precedents, the things that came before he created these harvestman creatures. So he calls it established precedents. We're just calling it an inspiration list. So what movies or TV shows or characters that came before that could inspire your idea right now?
We're going to write that down up here. If I have an understanding of what has come before, then I'm better equipped to be able to figure out ways that I can push the needle, raise the bar, contribute to the conversation. So I think initially it started off with, scarecrows. This idea of these like harvest man, that's where the term, the idea of a harvest comes from. Pumpkins, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Little Shop of Horrors, Swamp Thing.
What do you think about Swamp?
Probably mostly the local color of green, just being like a green leafy person. It might be cool to have a big, muscly, tanky harvest man. Like imagine if you took Swamp Thing and then plugged the pumpkin head on top. That could be pretty cool. Oh, the Headless Horseman is one, for sure. The idea of like the disembodied head and the sort of like flaming eyes in the jack-o'-lantern. There's something about the idea of a construct that I might have seen it in like World of Warcraft or something like that. Wagon wheels and like scythes and farm tools. Like that to me is very interesting. I could see that those being like interesting accessories, like the idea of taking fiddlesticks from League of Legends. I recommend when you do this yourself, you want to make sure you're in a really comfortable situation. You feel, very relaxed, like you want to work in your comfort zone, because you need to be able to tap into like a sense of nostalgia and memory. In order to do that, you have to make yourself get to be able to be vulnerable. Avoid judging your ideas too harshly in the early stages. In order to generate new ideas, I need to actually allow myself to play and to let things begin to flow. So now,
all right, that's where we're stopping it. He says something at the very end there that's very important. Allow yourself to have ideas. So in class, I've said before, have the courage to have ideas. So many of you, I feel like especially at your age, you stop yourself from having ideas. You don't want to explore things that you come up with because you're afraid of being wrong or people judging it. Don't stop yourself. Don't say no to an idea before you've explored it, okay? That's what I love at the end of that little snippet. So this is what you need to do now. You will find an empty page either in your journal or on a loose piece of paper. You will write at least 5 things that are inspirations for your monster or creature. When you've pinpointed all of your inspirations, create a sketch of your idea for a monster or creature. So I have, my phone is, you can hear my laundry, oh my God. Okay. So I have a sketch to the far right. I made this sketch after I came up with like my inspirations and what I wanted to do. Remember I said I wanted to create like a protector of the forest. So I wanted to do something based in nature, a female presenting kind of creature, just like a feminine power of nature. So I wanted, I'll go back to here. So I made some inspirations. I'll talk through them now, but you might recognize some of them. I was inspired by Venus flytraps, Medusa. Here's another depiction of Medusa. Poison Ivy, a villain. This guy from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Children of the Forest from Game of Thrones. And these kind of flowers that have no chlorophyll in them, which means they have no green pigment, which is very unusual. So how are these inspiring my sketch? I wanted the kind of spines for the mouth of the Venus flytrap. I like the kind of viney thing from this swamp guy. And Medusa, like instead of snakes, I want it to be vines kind of going up. I want these white flowers to be what's at the tips of these vines. And Children of the Forest and all that. These are just inspiring me to create this monster that protects a forest. So the Children of the Forest are characters in Game of Thrones that are all about protecting nature. They're motivated by that. So that is what you're doing. Even if you're online, I need a list of inspirations, at least 5, and I need a sketch. That is it. Get to work.